Meeting to order for November 19th, 2019. This agenda is subject to change and includes those items reasonably anticipated by the chair to be discussed at the meeting. Not all agenda items may be in fact discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Okay, we do not have anybody here for citizens' participation, so I'm going to take the next one. Do you want to just do a quick overview for number three, the tobacco regulations?
Yeah, I guess since it's been a little while. I don't remember the date of the meeting that we discussed it, but we had late in the summer, I believe it was, we had a public hearing. Was it September, maybe? October?
I thought it was September.
Yeah, it was September, I believe. We had a public hearing to discuss minor changes to the tobacco regulations that we passed a while back to go into effect on January 1st of 2020. And what we have done is added a definition for smoke accessories to the regulation. And what else did we do? We added that definition to several paragraphs in the tobacco product sales permit, and we are requiring people who sell smoke accessories to have a tobacco permit, and that they only be sold to people 21 and above. And then the only other changes we made were cosmetic to reflect the current Board of Health. And tonight, we are all together as a group, and we are going to sign it just to put the ink on the page.
Awesome. Anybody have any discussion, comments? Okay.
Thank you for all your work, Chris.
Absolutely.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Laura's just making a quick change, and we'll sign them when she comes back, but I'd like to take a motion. Somebody like to make a motion? I'll write it down for her.
I move that we adopt the amended regulations as drafted and approved in the previous meetings as drafts.
I'll second that.
Sorry, I'm just writing. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris, for diligent work on this one.
Nice
You are
job.
welcome. I think that, going back to the earliest meetings that we had on these topics, way back when it seemed controversial that we were barking down the wrong tree, I think that it proved that we were on the right track all along when we see what's going on in the news today. So it looks like, we may see federal regulation happen, but at the very least,
Minimum state, right?
at the very minimum state,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's a lot going on. I think that, one of the arguments people have always had is you're not going to keep it out of everyone's hands, and that's true. No one thinks that that's the case. But if we can make it harder to get, if we can increase awareness, then I think that we've done, we can go to bed at night with a clear conscience and say that we've done our part. And that's what our role is, to do our part.
So good job. Thank you. Okay, KJ, do you want to take number 4?
Yes, I do. I just received this documentation from Sustainability Committee member Matt,
Marshall?
asking us to look into this bill, and I looked at it, and it appears that it is worthwhile us to recommend or support this activity, because this gives at least a notice of what they're doing when they do dump the raw sewage or untreated water into the rivers. And this causes definitely health-related pollution in the rivers and the waters, and we need to protect that. And apparently there is about 3 billion gallons of untreated water gets into this discharge many times in a year, depending on when these activities happen because of the overflowing sewage disposal infrastructure, lack of infrastructure. And these have critical pathogens that affect the children's, elders, and vulnerable population. And I think it's good for us to support this activity, and then we should probably send a letter supporting this activity. And I would suggest us this time make our chair to write up the letter and send
Yeah,
it on our behalf.
It looked like to me when you had sent this that it's a fillable,
Pretty much, yeah.
a fillable form, so I guess we would just respond to this,
Right.
which would just be sent. So
Sure.
I mean, I could do that on behalf of the board with a
That's what.
Okay, did you want to say anything about this?
No, it does happen, but more with combined sewers. Ashland is very limited with combined sewers. When previous years, they would combine the stormwater drain systems out in our roadways as well as in people's cellars. So that the Ashland Water and Sewer Departments had a program to eliminate those type of discharges, which can be put into the ground versus into the sewer system that ends up in the Boston Harbor. And if you get heavy rains, it supercharges the sewer system. It also is infiltration. And Ashland's been part of a program that takes care of infiltration.
So I just want to make, so this would be more like like something that would happen more in the city?
More
with-
in Boston, Cambridge, the bigger cities and towns that didn't know where to put the drainage water.
The issue is it's not just helping us, it's
Yeah,
the entire
absolutely.
community. Something may happen upstream in the other town that may
Yeah, true.
affect us, so we need to support this so
Yeah.
that the general population is protected very well. So,
We just pass that down. All right, so, do you want to make a motion?
I do, I request that we had authorize our chair to write the support letter on our behalf based on the documentation provided here.
I second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Guess we can each do a little something too, if all we have to do is, fill this in, I guess,
Yeah, I
I'll
can take a
certainly
peek
do
at
that
it
as well.
tomorrow, because I don't know, I mean, I
Yeah,
Sure.
don't know if it's.
It wouldn't hurt,
yeah,
Yeah,
right?
you're right.
exactly.
if you have time,
Yeah,
definitely.
thank you.
Just for simplicity, do you want to just change that we'll vote to support it, and I'll set in our own support?
Sure, so amended,
Get that, okay. Just because I don't want to do it and not, okay.
and you need second that, Betty?
Second
I
that.
second the amendment.
Yeah, all right.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay,
And thank you for putting this on the subject matter.
Oh, no
It's-
problem.
it's
no
important.
problem.
Thank you, Mark, for also reminding me.
Okay. I think owe Diana thanks too on that.
The next item on the agenda is just, it's under my report, is update on the regional nursing services. I think really the only thing that, to report is that we have filed for a grant to fund the program. City of Framingham technically filed the grant on all of our behalf.
And I think it will help fund the program.
Ex-
I still think there will be costs, but
Yep.
this will at least take away some of that initial burden when you go to regionalize.
And this is at least for the first year, and then possibly it would continue after that, but it would be the pilot of the program. So we haven't heard anything from it, but, we submitted the paperwork, so we're just waiting. So it's not too much of an update, but that's where
What
we're at.
would the potential timeframe, are you talking about January 1st?
January 1st, yeah.
really?
Well, January 1st is when, when the grant is available. The
Okay.
grant is awarded, I should say, right?
And what we're looking for is for Framingham to indicate if, and I was gonna bring it up with the budget discussion, if we need to support any additional revenue above and beyond the grant that they're offering to be the impetus for the regionalization.
Yeah, and I think that, I think the next step would probably be is just to have another roundtable discussion about, like, now we know that hopefully we'll get the grant, we know who's willing to participate in the program, and then sit down and work out the actual particulars. Because, each community sat and had different needs, so we really need to put down, down of what the actual program and the regionalization is gonna look like. And then, obviously, we'll bring it, back to the board.
It's exciting, though.
This will still give us all the data that we need to get it for any purposes, because that's important for us.
Yep, they would do the
Yeah,
Maven
yeah,
reporting,
it's-
so the reports and stuff that you've looked for in the past, they would produce it for us.
Right, Right.
And those are things I think, I mean, Mark and I will probably sit down beforehand and talk about that, because I think we should go in with expectations. For example, if there's a reporting or there's things that we need for the board or for the department, make sure that they understand where we're at, because everybody does things a little differently, so we'll work out the particulars.
And
Not-
there will be needs, and this will give us depth, which we didn't have before. Depth, if we have a hepatitis A case, you need a lot of support from nursing on hepatitis A, especially if it's within a public facility. Depth on TB, if you get several of them at the same time. So it's almost like when you look at sports teams, you always look at a strong bench, and our bench unfortunately only has a part-time person with medical background. So again, it's in, when we get to the discussion on the budget, I'll have to just note that until Framingham tells us the exact cost of what they expect from our town, I'm gonna have to leave that at level funding, but at least we're getting that depth, in my view.
Right, and I've circled back with management, the same thing, because we don't know what the cost is gonna be, they haven't worked out those details, because of course we don't know, we're anticipating the grant, we don't know how much we're gonna get for the grant for them to put the whole thing together. And then, of course, probably maybe not the next meeting, but the meeting after that would be when we would, I guess, the town
Management,
manager and the mayor would sit down, and
yeah,
I think they're gonna have to sit down and work out some of
and
the intermunicipal agreement.
we can, our submittal for the budget's December 3rd, so it can be to be determined, unfortunately, because management, as you said, the town manager and the mayor need to sit down and figure out cost.
Yeah, and at least at least they know what we're dealing with, so at least if there's an adjustment that needs to be made, at least they know we're in the
Yeah.
process, so we can work out that as the process goes along, so.
And Diane, who are the other players? Who are the other communities? Is it Holliston, Hopkinton?
Holliston, and as if,
Holliston's definitely considering it. Hopkinton just hired a full-time nurse.
Okay,
They were able to get the support they needed for a full-time nurse, but Hudson was at the table, but their distance issue is that people from Hudson may not wanna go all the way to Framingham, where the advantage for us and Holliston is,
right, proximity.
yeah, we're not as close as Town Hall, but at least it's still direct routes from
Right.
126 from
Both
Holliston.
towns offer
and-
public transportation to and
and
from as well.
there you go.
and with having the public clinic in, the city of Framingham downtown, I mean, that's a perfect location for that reason. The woman from Hudson, the health director, she just said it's like a 45-minute ride for people. But I
So-
mean, even so far, they, of course, they offered a public flu clinic, which included our residents, said approximately 200 people came. And then we've done an employee flu clinic here
Yes.
with them, as well as our own health nurse was here as well.
That's great. I didn't know
So it was
that.
nice, because, you don't know how much
Convenience
volume.
factor,
Yeah,
you know.
so
Mm.
it's good that we
people
already
in-
are working with them for some of these
Yeah.
things.
I know certain doctors have run out of vaccine again, so it was nice to offer that.
Yeah.
And Kitty came in, and Nancy was here, our nurse. It was a nice team effort. So wasn't the Ashland Framingham Flu Clinic, a nice team effort.
So we
That's
will keep
nice.
it on the agenda.
Yeah,
Hopefully keep getting updates on it, so
Yeah,
we're moving
good
forward
job.
with that.
Good job.
All right, Mark, you are up. I guess we were just talking about
See.
the 21 budget, but,
Kind of led into it,
Yeah.
yes. So the present budget, the FY 20 budget, is in good order. It said we should be at around 37%. Again, I get that from the salaries. That's a definite benchmark that we use. And most of our line items were below that or close to that. What I would say, though, is that as we move forward, it will change through the next few months. You'll see, hopefully, if anyone needs training, conferences, we're at 52% on that. Our fees for memberships are close to where it should be. And then, like I say, salaries, and as we get busier too, you might see clerical overtime going up, but the average right now should be around 37-38%, and we're well within that. We're not going over in any line items at this time. Hopefully no surprises, and that's, the unforeseen. I don't have a crystal ball, I wish I did, I could tell you what's gonna happen next, but that's where we stand right now. The other side of it is the revolving funds, which will get us involved with discussion for the FY '21. I'll jump into that after we review it. You'll see we have in the Food Protection Inspection Program, $29,642, and that that amount will go up. We mailed out we haven't, what do we receive, maybe 5% of the fees at this time? So we got a lot more coming in for the annual fees for food permits, and tobacco permits. And so those numbers will go up. Accordingly, tobacco should go up about $4,000 to 20, and the other one will probably go up considerably, which will lead to my next discussion will be FY '21. But if you have questions on the present, I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Just an update, is the tobacco officer situation all
Yeah,
set?
letters being sent to me to review from Human Resources. I spoke with her today, and
Those are
hopefully,
offer letters?
for at least the main person.
But those are offer letters?
The offer
Oh, good.
letters, correct.
Okay, yeah.
One at least, we gotta do the reference check on the other one, but the secondary person we'll work on next, but we wanna get the primary person ready to get out there to talk to the vendors. She's been involved with the vendors before. It's Melissa Evans, who used to work with her father, who was our tobacco inspector.
That's good.
And she had the qualifications over all the others, and
What
she's
happens?
She's been a good
knowledgeable.
asset, though. as
She
well,
has,
yeah.
I gave her a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
reference to
Diane,
HR.
were we planning to have a regionalization there also or no, with that tobacco?
Someday, maybe.
Yeah, someday
Oh, okay.
it didn't really click at this time with what they had going on as well, because they're pretty heavily involved with a lot of stuff, and I don't think they can take on any more right now.
Right.
And as like Mark said, we're actually technically hiring two, right? One,
Yeah, one for more the educational end of it, and who worked at the American Lung Association for a time period. And she'll be assisting also with Melissa, I don't know why I wanna call her Marissa. I hope I don't do that when she's on staff.
I know. Melissa and Marissa.
Melissa.
Yeah, yeah.
Those
So-
time at Lisa's office after.
I might have known a Marissa Evans in my lifetime, I don't know, it's so weird, I've done it twice today, I did it with HR too. So that's the status
Yes,
of
we're gonna
the
have
tobacco.
two part-time,
Yeah.
so.
And there might be some grant money to help out on the education decisions at every turn. Received a grant and they put $1,000 towards tobacco education, so I'm hoping the new person we're getting, that person can work towards that program as well, maybe within the schools
I was
where
gonna say, I
it
wonder
would
if
be
that would help us
appropriate.
out with our education as well as
Yeah.
maybe,
Yeah.
compliance
Yeah.
checks. maybe.
Maybe have that person set up a fair maybe with the AET for other matters, but have a tobacco booth there on prevention methods and all that.
Any move on increasing the food inspection?
Yeah, and that was
Budget.
gonna be my discussion for the FY '21, but it's also presently in place. We're increasing our primary inspections. Tom's been given that direction, so
I was gonna say, I
your
think we gave them the direction
primary
a couple of months ago.
priority, your priority inspections include
Based,
nursing homes,
yeah.
includes large restaurants and large retail, which are your supermarkets, so,
We gave,
that-
that's started a
that's-
couple of months ago, pretty much,
yeah,
yeah.
Tom's
So he's been,
following that direction.
Who does the schools?
I do.
yeah, so he had, excuse me, so, I know Tom had the directive from the board a couple of months ago to increase the inspections, and,
Right.
and he's, he's willing to do more. He's gonna be taking some time off towards the end of this year.
Yeah, I
He's-
think he'll need
yeah.
to take a couple weeks off.
Yeah, good for him.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be a busy
Yeah,
man,
they have
busy
plans.
dad.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to that report that we were looking for the past 2 years, the summary?
We got,
You didn't get
I
that?
think we got it.
Tom finished it.
Oh, that's not the summary. Summary
Oh, I was gonna
report
say,
is
it was
one
a
day-
couple of
So one page, this is complete data, so we need to do the summary, no, that is, the one-page report that they usually submit to the
I
state.
apologize, I talked to Tom, I
Yeah,
didn't relay
Tom
anything. What
finished
do we,
that. You
yeah.
didn't get it?
No,
What do
I
we,
didn't.
We'll
what do we?
figure it
I didn't
out.
get the one, that was full data that he sent it, that
Okay.
has nothing to do with it, this is a summary of it, which state has categorized it and then gives it, that 3 years ago you gave it to the town, to the state, so you just take that form, erase the old data, put the new data, that's what
So,
we
I,
change.
I was gonna
That's
say,
what I need, because that's what I can pile it up and analyze with whatever data that we have.
You're
and
looking
then
for the older data?
he's looking for, because you said that,
Annual summary that every July, you're required to submit to the state.
We were required to. that is
Required to.
correct.
Yeah, but you're not,
31st July is the date that we need.
All right,
But
so-
I have the old data if you need it.
well, I was gonna
No,
say,
I need it in that format, so it's much easier for me to assimilate with the
all right,
old
what he's
data.
explaining though is this, we're not required to submit it anymore, so if you're looking,
The regulation is still there, but they don't give the forms, I guess. I don't know whether they
Yeah,
haven't,
Okay.
they haven't,
so
they
you
haven't
want the
said no
current
for-
data, but in the old format.
that's right, because it's easy for us to do.
Okay, okay.
It's one-page report that they
I
provide.
apologize, because I talked to Tom, I've talked to
Yeah.
Tom a couple of times, I
It's a
didn't
one-page
realize we were
report
waiting
that's
for
Try to
anything.
format it into the.
Even if we just
format.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, we'll work on that, that's okay. Might give him something to do while he's home watching the twins.
In between diaper changes.
yes,
And-
yes.
What was that number
And
again?
sleeping.
2 diapers? No,
Right.
it was 2 inspections. Okay, we can do that.
All right. Anybody else have any questions about the budget for 20 or 21?
And for 2021, just so the board knows, I think we've explained it a couple times. We met with management, so this is not the year. It's even as the budget information explains, the local receipts are going down, so we have to be very conservative, and we were in agreement with that, with management. The deadline is December 3rd for the draft proposal, and I just wanna go over that with the board, that be based on that, the line items really won't change too much, except for the revolving funds, which are separate from the omni budget, the total budget for the town. So what I'm planning to ask for is ask the board first, is a $5,000 increase to the limits on the 2 revolving funds, the tobacco, which is a limit of 5, and the food is a limit of 30. And I'll explain each one. The limit for the tobacco, with 2 inspectors, I think we can be more progressive. We have more progressive regulations. There'll be more reviews with our vendors. And they're the ones paying for these inspections, because their fees revolve into the funding. It's just that I would ask that limit go up to
I was gonna
the,
say, okay, if I could just, you said, I'm sorry, did you say tobacco was 5 or,
tobacco's at a limit right now of 5,000.
But
so that's expended?
No, it's what we can expend to. We can't go over 5,000 on tobacco, so we can't spend past 5,000 for the services to that account. And then, so I was hoping to go to 10. I have the town,
Yeah, no, I'm sure you do, because
How much do we get in fees?
right now, we get about 4,000 a year, but right now we have a balance of 16,123.
because we're
This is-
spending well,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know, this is the 5 and the 30 from last year's town
yeah,
meeting.
I remember the 30, but yeah, so at town meeting, and you probably know this, but every year at town meeting, they vote to reestablish the revolving funds
Right.
for everybody. So what
Yeah.
Mark's explaining is that the limits on each are different, so we need to
Yeah.
change the limits at the next town meeting.
Right.
So when it comes time for,
KG has a hot.
I know.
no, I was gonna tell, but it comes time for it because I mean, the 10 isn't gonna cut, because
that's-
we're already spending over that.
Right, you go ahead.
That's only gonna be, so Mark, if you have 16 in there now and you want 10 a year, so take away 10 for this year, leaves you 6, 4 for next year that we get in fees. This is only gonna work for 2 years.
If we spend the 10,000, I'm not saying we will, it just gives us that liberty to do that in case.
But you're
'Cause we-
hiring 2 people, right, to
Correct,
be doing
but
this
we're
job?
gonna be busier this year, I think, than future years, cause we have new regulations that have just come out, and all the information going on at the state level with the vaping, and I think it will demand more time, and that may dwindle, and that's why the revolving fund has to be reviewed every year by town meeting and approved by town meeting, so it could change back,
Okay.
up or down,
I-
based on the.
I personally don't think even 10's enough, I don't think 10's
Yeah.
enough, I think I mean, I think it needs to go higher, because we
If we're only
take,
collecting 4,000 a year, though.
But we haven't expended
That-
too much
that-
this year. We've
That's
expended-
why I'm coming in here.
We've only.
I'm okay for getting more money out.
Haven't spent any money this year.
The town, every year for the past 3 years, has a lot of free cash, goes in everywhere.
You can look at last
We
year's.
should get a bite on that and get it to our department here, one.
Well, I
The other
wasn't
thing
talking
is,
about that.
the notion of revolving fund is there for only to safeguard our expenses that is essentially needed. It doesn't mean that we have to limit ourselves to that amount. The creation of that account was when the town was not doing good, the money would have gone somewhere else, so they wanted to hold on to these so that the inspection program survives and goes through it. So, the revolving fund is not a limit to which that we need to take the money out from there. It's
Well-
there for us to help us to do our minimum job.
Okay,
So if we have to
So-
do a good inspection and keep the town in a healthy situation,
Even
we
if-
need to put more money into it.
but even if you're, because I'm playing out your scenario, is that we would ask the town to appropriate $10,000 out of free cash
Yeah.
for our revolving account. So of course, that would be a town meeting action, so that would be in May. But in May, we need to increase the limit no matter what. So whether we move forward with an article asking for more money, we have to do twofold, we have to do both.
Right.
If the board feels that that's how we wanna do it. I personally would rather, I mean, I wouldn't wanna ask them to take it from free cash. I mean, they could allocate it wherever they want to take it from, but I
Fine,
just wouldn't be
but what I meant
specific
is
for
that
free
the
cash.
town as such has to budget more money for the Board of Health, that's what I'm asking. He can't, year after year, he can just give the same amount and then increase the salaries or other benefits to everybody, because they have to get that one. It is a must for them.
Right, but do you remember?
So we don't invest in providing the services to the people by doing the
But
inspection.
do you
That's
remember
what
when
we-
Michael sat here and he explained to it, I haven't allocated money to the Board of Health budget, but I have allocated quite a lot of money. It's referred to as human services. We've hired 2 full-time people, we've hired, increased somebody else's hours recently as well. So that was his justification of not to physically put more money in our budget. I think that if we went forward and asked for money in tobacco control with everything that's going on, I think we would have a better
Yeah.
argument, if you will,
Sure.
to say, listen, we have,
New regulations
Two-
we need, yeah.
well, plus we're trying to be pro, we have 2 people who have great, strong skills moving forward.
Right.
We would like more money to be allocated.
You're right on track. Yeah,
That's true.
Yep.
And
And I
Michael
agree.
made that point too. To just say, we deserve more money is not an argument.
Correct.
You know what I'm
That's-
saying? You have to justify it.
And we
It
might
is,
need
that
more.
is, that's what I'm
And
saying,
and-
even the food inspection is also, we are
Yeah.
not meeting the level that we are supposed to be,
Mhm.
and we're
Right, but we
barely doing
addressed
minimum.
that problem. We're on track with that.
Yeah.
And we're on track with having the 2 full-time people. We might find that we're going to need a little bit of money to do what our
Sure,
plan is.
Sure.
But
So,
I think also is once we get the new people on, maybe we should just sit down, as a group and write down what our goals and objective are for those positions, so at least when, because I'm assuming we're gonna have to,
Right.
when we say, hey, this is what we put together for, scope, this is what our plan is for the next year, we need X amount of money.
yeah,
and-
I-
and have
yeah,
it-
to make it clear that it should not be
I
just
agree,
revolving
KG, I
around.
totally,
They should not be revolving around the revolving fund. It is meant there as a safety to do the minimum that you need.
Yeah, and that should be a paper
So
document.
nobody
absolutely,
touches that
right.
money,
It
that's what it
outlines
is.
it.
It is
Right.
meant for only for this.
And I think we should start that conversation after, after the holidays, after the first of the year, and get ready, because, May's, we'll have to
Sure.
submit a warrant article for
Okay.
that if they,
Mhm.
Definitely.
unless
Yeah.
they were willing to include it in next year's budget, I'm not, so, that's great, I agree.
Wonderful, that's good.
Okay, so back to the revolving funds. I
Moving
know
on,
it's
left
not the
field.
free cash, I know that's a whole different situation, but back to that.
Cash is cash for me, no matter whether
No,
it's
I
free
know
or
it is.
not, but
Well-
it is all the tax money that was paid by us. It's sitting there. It's being deposited in some bucket or the other, that's all it is, but,
I understand.
we should get a piece of that bucket.
But the revolving funds are user fees, people paid for a permit for say, a food inspection, for a food permit, and that money can only specifically be spent on products or personnel that handle food inspections, which I was, if
I understand.
I'm
Hold
not
on,
arguing
Anna,
your
just hold
fact,
on,
I'm not arguing
Because I
that.
think I
No,
know
no,
what
I
he's
just-
getting.
But what I was gonna say is that, I've been introduced to a better food inspection program. There's a couple out there, and one of them I may be able to even seek a grant for the initiating it. But it is considerably more expensive than what we pay for. But when you do the inspections with the present program, it takes up a considerable amount of time versus these more modern programs. They're all electronic, but some take longer because you gotta populate every single line that has about 50 lines. So I was gonna start looking at those, but the only way I would suggest we do it is to increase that revolving line by 5,000. So that
Well,
would,
Yes, so at town meeting next year, we need to increase,
Yes,
right,
that's
so
when it
we need to just
happens.
move forward
Yeah.
with that no matter
That's
what.
for the short term, but the
Yeah.
long term is to get the budget itself increase for us so that we'll have a
Which
robust
we
program.
tried a couple of years ago and then a year ago.
Yeah.
And this is just, and I respect management, it's just not the year. And that's why Diane and I sat down with management, it's just not the year this year, so why spin the wheels if it's not the year? We have to be conservative, but we're fortunate to have the revolving funds.
And
You know,
I would assume, that management of every level will support us on whichever program, because my opinion is it's the same thing, that not only the tobacco permit holders are users of this service, it's every resident here in town,
Yeah.
for tobacco and as well as for food. So we can't necessarily have the users, the permit holders pay all that fee.
Yeah.
We need a little bit extra money in there to do
Sure.
other things for other people.
Mhm.
Sure.
So I can't imagine that they would
I've
give us
repeatedly
any.
told the meals tax is getting a lot of money, but much more than our budget. I've been saying this every meeting that I come here about the food inspection. And my grandmother used to say that the gold is malleable, but you need to keep beating it, so we need to keep beating the
To-
town with this request
Yeah.
every time.
Right, and it's
And-
not till, it's May.
And,
We'll do it in May.
and while we're working on that, to Mark's point, I think,
Sure.
by having that flexibility, right now, we have the good fortune of having $16,000
Right.
in that fund. But it's pointless to have that much if we only are allowed to use 5 of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
So if we can increase the
Right.
amount,
Chris.
and
Yeah.
then, right, if
Agreed.
the
Absolutely.
programs happen such that we needed to go over the 5,000, whatever the number is, now we have tangible evidence that we need more money
Correct.
in the actual budget, because that's how much it costs to
Sure.
run those programs.
Right, yep, thank you.
Yep, so we'll just,
What's the suspected shortfall with the 2 new employees, or isn't there one right now?
And I don't expect a shortfall.
You don't?
Last year, the total year spent was $896. I expect that now we can, with 2 people, get more out there, get more programs out there, so I don't expect that
Oh,
we'll
okay.
have any
All right,
issues.
So at least we're in good shape for now.
We are, yeah. If anything, we can start getting more enforcement based on the availability of having 2 inspectors.
I think it would be good for us, again, after the
This is
holidays,
tobacco.
to
Put-
Putting regulation is no use unless you enforce it.
That's
Right,
correct.
and I
That's
think
right.
it would be beneficial for all of us, as well as our staff, that if we have a one-page document about what our goals, I'll call it goals and objectives, whatever we wanna
Yeah.
call it, but about, okay, we want 3 inspections a year, we want this, we want quarterly reporting, and just because then it's clear for everybody.
Right.
And I think that would be a good working document for when we move forward with asking for more money, and
And I've already had that put in writing with management for my performance goals, is to have staff inspect 3
we'll
times.
just steal Mark's document
Priority
then.
inspections. But it
Well,
is your decision too, you
No,
hit
but
it
it-
right on the button.
yeah.
So if you want it a different number, by all means, I
Yeah,
bring it back
that's
to
good, though.
management and say the board would prefer to have something a little different from that.
Yeah, and if you, I don't know if you have it electronic, but just put it, and then we can just take it and use it as a working document, and then
Sure.
make some,
Are
and
there any other goals? Cause December 3rd, I have to give a draft to the, I kinda gave you what I was gonna offer, which is based on the, let's say the 4 corners of what we're involved with right now with the whole budget, but I didn't, and I'm thinking creatively, let's use the user funds, the user fee
Yeah.
funds.
I was gonna say, are you talking about for you, or because I was talking about for
I'm
the 2
talking
and
in
the
general
inspectors?
for the other
Excuse
line,
me.
I'm sorry, Diane,
No,
for
you
the other.
bet.
Is your draft ready now?
Well, no, it's pretty much flat. All the first budget, the budget without revolving funds, that's level funded.
Right.
There's no additional.
So when would you have the document
Staff.
ready?
for-
Don't tell me it's 2nd
It's
December.
gonna
that's-
just say to stay level funded, it's that easy.
I understand,
but I
but
think
with
we're
all
on
those
2
new
different
changes
pages.
that you
I'm sorry,
want.
I'm sorry.
No, I think
That's
what you're talking about is you have to,
I'm reporting to the
you need to
financial
submit
officer.
your
Yeah,
goals. Okay,
yeah.
and we were talking about the food inspector tobacco,
Oh,
not you,
that
that's
which-
why.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay, so the document that we're gonna work for from him is for the food inspector and tobacco agents.
Correct. But I thought you said
But
we
you-
have to submit it by 3rd of
and
December
that
to
won't matter
the.
because
That's
those are
his.
revolving funds, so
Oh,
what I
only for
submit-
that, okay.
Yeah, those are revolving
you're
funds, so,
talking
but
about-
I will note it in the report that the board's looking at different goals for our tobacco and food program, and as they evolve prior to town meeting, I'll keep them in the loop of what the board wishes.
What, no,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
So, one of the things that I wanted to discuss tonight, because I'm new to the board, was goals that Mark has, like, are you developing those now? Is that what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
I work with management on my goals. I basically work with management on goals.
So does the board have any part in that
Oh,
discussion?
by all means, if you want me to do something, I would bring that to management and say, listen, my board would like to see these goals.
Well, I don't know what they are, whether I'd add or subtract them, from my viewpoint, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
and-
do you have last year's that we could look at?
They're called, it's Elevate. We have a program called Elevate,
Okay,
and within Elevate has performance goals.
okay,
This year, it's been, because of what we've been up against, a lot of it's appropriate messaging through social media especially, something that it was needed. 40%, about 38% of the public read their news through
Yeah.
social media. With that said, we had triple E, we had cyanotoxin.
Right.
So getting the word out through the Facebook and through texting, and not texting, tweeting, if I said that right, yes, tweeting, was the challenge that we worked on as a goal. And the goal was, exceeded for getting the word out, but
so that's
also,
not like a communication
but also
goal,
the,
but I mean,
the nursing program.
So I just, and I don't know,
Revolving
I guess I'd love to,
into regional.
I think that as a board, like, when we come in and we say, oh, Mark, we'd like to see you do this, or we'd like to, know
Then I
about
would
that.
present that to
I want it,
management.
I don't know if I'm asking for something outside of your scope of
Well, the-
responsibilities, or if I'm within them. So I just,
I see what
I'm
you're saying.
looking for something that says, these are the things
right,
he
you don't
does.
want a conflict, I would.
Yeah.
Right,
I'd
because
have to
like,
bring it to
I
management.
wanna bring forward, I sat at the, employee, flu clinic vaccine, and I was speaking with Kitty Mahoney and, a gentleman from Framingham as a medical corps member, about getting ours revitalized, getting ours like, out, like, to me, that should be our, as a board, one of our priorities. That our medical corps is kind of fizzled out is scary to me and is concerning to me, like, as a town, because I know, having talked to them, what other towns are doing, and I think we're, like, if something happens, we're not prepared. And we should be. And, getting down to the fact of, even that quarries aren't done for the people that we have, and when we have to staff, when we lose electricity or have blizzards, and we have to staff the community center like we did last year, that there are very few people that are qualified because they're not quarried, or they're quarried 3 years ago. So I think we as a town, people, I think, expect the Board of Health to be on top of something like that, like, health, that's important.
Well, I can answer to the questions you had, just not Ashland, mostly all the smaller towns. The good example is the person we were talking with from Framingham. But other towns are facing the same dilemma, quarries weren't done, and that was done at a regional basis. That's
So
not,
I guess-
if I can finish, that was
Yeah.
done at a regional basis. And what's good, and as a voting member of the region, I suggested additional funds, as well as Kitty Mahoney, go into the Medical Reserve Corps, because exactly what you're saying was happening. It was dwindling. So now we have 3 agents, one for the South District of our region, which is Region 4A, the director, Roberta Hull, and a Northern District leader. They're gonna help with the actual badging. Badging's gonna happen right here in Framingham. Used to happen up in Wilmington. So a lot of that's happening right now, just to
Yeah, I'm not
answer
trying to
your-
get into like.
No,
the-
just to answer-
Because I know there's a meeting Thursday night, and
Yeah,
I will.
recruitment
Right,
and
this
training.
Thursday
So-
night. But what I'm saying is, I don't know if you're responsible for that, and if you are, I wanna meet with you, I wanna like spearhead it if I can, to get this,
The
give it
Board
a
of
shot
Health-
in the
They've
arm.
always fallen under
Is
the
this
Board of
under
Health.
you?
It falls
under
under the
us?
Board of Health.
Right.
Okay.
And I am actually helping with you have a chairperson. I suggest highly that you talk to him as well. His name's Michael Gurnick. He's been our chair for 10 years.
Yeah.
He also was a fire captain, I believe, in Boston, so he has background knowledge in first response type
Okay,
work.
So
But
he'll be
it does
present
fall
Thursday?
under Mike,
Yep.
and,
okay, I'll
and
talk to them on
it's a
Thursday.
joint venture. And
But I'm
Mike'd
just
be a
like,
great person to talk to.
why I brought all that up, Mark, is I don't know if that's in your goals. If it's not in your goals and it's the board's goals, then we need to step
Well,
up.
my
I think
sugge-
it's both.
Yeah,
think
I was
it's
gonna say,
both.
my suggestion would be, because we haven't had this discussion, is
Okay.
that we set aside time period. I know
Sure,
you have a
yeah.
deadline for
Mike-
yours.
Mike- Allow Mike to
Well,
come in.
no, we don't need specifics, I think, because I think
Yeah.
it's good, I mean, even though our year goes by, July 1st, I mean, maybe we sit down and just sit here and say, okay, what do we want to do in 2020?
Right,
And we decide whether it's something that we are going to spearhead. Maybe
Okay.
it's something that you work with Mike, and so I think it would be definitely healthy that we have this discussion. I think with yours,
When you have a full-time public health nurse, what happened over the years, when it was first introduced, mostly your public health agents were following it and guiding it with the chairperson of each town for the Medical Reserve Corps. It's more or less switched now into the nursing side, because it's more nursing, medical, non-medical. So we see more of that happening, and there was a goal to get a full-time public health nurse here. Last year, I know you weren't here, but that was gonna be a major part of that position. But now that we're regionalizing, regionalizing with Framingham, we're hoping
Yeah.
to. I'm sure Kitty she's done a great job over there with the Medical Reserve Corps. She has the time, she has the actual regional people in her district, right in Framingham. So I
So
think
but
it's gonna evolve.
I'm just circling
What
back
about-
to,
what I was
I
gonna say,
think that's great. I think we need to like sit down and see who, because I don't wanna be thinking Mark's working on it if he thinks we're working
well,
on
and
it.
I think it would just definitely be healthy, because I know that even when I get on the board, I
We need
wanted
to-
to, we going to the decisions at every term meetings, take things,
Right,
and everybody have a project. So
right,
I think that would be good to do,
good.
is sit down and figure out what our goals personally,
But you're talking
professionally.
about more than just
I'm talking
collaboration
about,
with you mean
so I
whatever
would love to know
a
like,
broad
what,
reaching,
what the management has on Mark's, what our expectations of Mark are. Do they blend? Do they work? Like, is it possible to accomplish that? Or does the board need to assume some of those? Like, I just
Should have a
wanna know,
meeting on
what
it.
does he
So
have
maybe
on
do you
his
wanna do it
plate?
December 3rd?
Because when
Yeah,
we're
that'd be
saying,
great, invite Mike.
Do this, do that.
I mean, I'm
yeah.
saying.
Well, no,
medical
I don't,
nurse,
not
like,
specific,
I was
not,
shocked
Oh,
not
just-
specific yet.
that we're not like
Do you,
as active as maybe we should
are you
be.
comfortable with putting it on as an agenda item for December 3rd?
Sure.
At least starting the conversation, I mean,
Yeah.
we can talk when it gets later about, holiday
Yeah.
gathering and stuff, but I mean, if we have time, it would be good just to have, if we don't have a lot of stuff on it,
So are you
just have.
saying you're gonna have your goals by then that you're gonna give to management?
Well, no, my goals are already set with management. We do evaluate, which is a performance review on a regular basis.
Okay,
We're looking to talk about, what we're doing here is discussing the budget, and within the budget, every year we ask the board, like you're saying, Medical Reserve Corps, maybe we should either have that explain that when we do regionalize, we want a good portion of that towards improving our Medical Reserve Corps, things like that.
But
That's
but
your
I think-
goals.
I think, but in general, like, I think what you're asking, I think, because I think we're talking about the same thing, is I think we need to set our goals as a board, but I think what you're saying is you wanna see what Mark's
Yeah.
looks like.
so if yours
And
were
then
already
if we
set,
need-
Mark, you
I'm assuming
could
we-
bring us yours for the year, right?
I can
6
bring,
months, they do it 6 months, right? Catch your breath. They do it 6
You
months at
alright?
a time.
it went down the wrong tube.
We'll take-
But I can bring, an outline.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming if we had any
And I'm trying to
input,
Is anybody
Okay.
taking the choking tree?
I know,
You
It's
okay?
just aspiration.
Oh, okay.
I got a doctor.
You went red.
so I'm
Well,
assuming
that's
that we,
because the water went
assuming,
down.
I'm assuming if the board
Take
had
a
the
breath.
input.
So, yeah.
just one thing, John used to beat this drum all the time, that I think the distinction that we
John.
need to make, John Featherston.
Okay.
That we're a policy board, so the day-to-day operations of the health of the town is Mark Orem and Laura Clifford. They are the day-to-day operations. I'm not saying we don't have a say. We can make policy and we can make laws, but Mark's really the one that enforces everything. We can talk about where there's shortfalls and things like that and help him out. I think if he needs our help with anything, he's gonna tell us, hey, this is what we need to do. I suggest, that we need more money because, we need better inspections and things like that. He knows what needs to be done. I'm not saying that it isn't good information for us to have, but he runs that part, and I think we try to support him with policy as we all deem appropriate
But
for
what I'm
the
saying,
town.
and I agree, But what I'm saying is, I don't know what he does
Well-
to know if I
Right.
can support him.
No, I get you, so,
So I
it-
just
so I'm
want-
just saying, if then.
She wants to know what's
I
in the
don't-
kitty.
Right, and I don't
Right.
mean to be a wise ass, but if you look at chapter 111, that's exactly what he is responsible for, and we're all responsible for.
Well-
Everything in there,
Anybody,
those million pages.
anybody that works for a town has sort of a yearly review,
Think we should
and
move
they
on.
have
Right.
goals that they have to meet, and they
Right.
have.
Let's make sure we just
Like-
keep within the framework of the agenda, just so we don't have any issues.
Okay.
Let's just, we'll put it on the agenda for the
agenda.
next meeting.
Okay.
We
And
don't wanna open
start
meeting
the,
law complaint.
start the conversation, and then, my opinion is, I think we'll probably take a couple, just so we all are on the
Okay.
same page.
Yeah.
But we'll start the conversation at the December 3rd, and then probably bring it up again in January.
Because I heard him say his
That-
goals, and I
that's
was like.
That's
perfectly
okay,
fine.
no, that's okay, I just wanna make sure that we stay within the.
Okay,
It's okay
Full
to
code.
definitely bring it
Yep.
up, to extend the conversation,
need to bring it
All
to the
right,
next.
so,
we need it, because we
You-
stray too far from the agenda.
you
Great.
are up to number C, Mark. Number C, fella, letter C,
I
excuse
almost
me.
did. My
Food
seat.
establishment
Yeah, I
training
we could-
No, that's okay.
program for food,
It's
yeah.
totally okay.
So on that there,
It's, I support
Okay.
your thoughts.
Okay, we're at the food establishment training.
yes, just so the board knows, we had a couple of power outages over the past few weeks. One was related to the other. Last Thursday, a portion of 126, the restaurants lost their power. A few of them called, which was good, because they were trained from the last power outage when we had 24 establishments, both on 135 and Route 126, without power. So we've been sending out notices to all the vendors that there's a required posting that they sign each year, and that is what they need to do when they lose power, and they need to be updated on that. So we're gonna be inviting all of them to training, and they'll be tomorrow night at what time? 6, and then we're doing again, we being Tom Curran and myself, we're doing again on Saturday for the food vendors at 9 o'clock.
That's great, I think that's great.
So this reporting that they
Yeah,
have to
but-
do is required, right?
I'm requiring it.
And if they don't do it, they're
The re-
penalized.
Yeah,
He's not.
they're required to do it per the food code, and they didn't, so that's why I'm requiring they be trained.
Okay,
That's- I think
and
it's
then
great.
beyond this point, there'll be a penalty if they don't.
I would expect the board would handle that, and I told them that they would have to seek the board's review and
In-
to explain why
That
they
would fall,
feel.
that would fall under the food, like, would that
The
fall
food
under the
code,
food
it
code, so
falls-
they
it
would
does
get a
fall
written
under-
warning? Okay, so we'll,
Okay.
I mean, if,
We would
I
hope
would
they-
assume, I mean, I
I-
would say that we can let them know that the
Yeah,
board
I
will be
expect 100% attendance. I
enforcing
really
that in the
do.
future.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll ask you and Tom to,
How are they doing with their anti-choke
They're all set.
certifications? Are they all in good shape?
Yes, yeah, well, the ones that aren't, Tom makes sure they get back to speed,
Okay.
so.
You should probably start ranking them with their numbers, whatever they provide, based on the number of hours they're open, the number of hours of anti-choke trained and certified managers, so it's a standard number, so there's nothing subjective ranking.
My
It's
son's
all-
friend from high school just lost his mother at a restaurant the other night, choked to death.
Oh, my God.
Not
Kathy
here,
lost a
but
friend.
close.
Oh, That's
So
terrible.
it does still happen,
It
Yeah.
does.
and it's an important thing, I think.
we're on a roll, Mark.
Go ahead, Mark.
Triple E.
Ah,
Thank God
Well,
for a hard
some
frost.
people were in 70 to 80 degree weather, other people experienced a very
That was
cold,
me.
cold night. And that was a week ago Friday.
Way to go.
Yes, way to go, you let us have it, you got the warm
Yes.
air. So with that, I did contact the state, it was a Saturday, but they were willing to get back to me. Matt Osborne, who runs the vector-borne disease programs, called me back on Saturday to say, yes, officially, we have had a freeze in your area, Ashland, and he said, we'll be updating the map today, and they did. I still don't know if they updated the Triple E risk map, but the most important map we were looking for was the map to show that we had a hard frost, which we did, so in that case, the curfew was let go at that point, and that was Saturday. I can get you the date if you
That's
want, I
okay.
think you were all notified.
And do we need to take
You could take
a
an
vote or any
official
action? Because
vote.
I know that you're doing the situation awareness, so we're not doing that anymore, correct?
Correct.
That's ended, right?
Yeah,
We're,
as of November 9th, the
Okay, good.
curfew was lifted
okay.
based
Yeah,
on
we
the
don't need
hot
to vote because we
freeze.
voted based on the ban.
Yep,
Right.
so that's good.
So, I'm hearing, as you probably are, that we're gonna have it next year.
Next 2 years.
Yeah, so, we're all set for it next year, right?
Well,
We
we're
got
gonna-
our database, we have our,
Yeah,
you know,
you're right, though.
plan. So
State's gonna
maybe we can
do-
take a little time to like
Yeah.
square that up and.
Yeah.
have-
State's already talking about an after-action review,
Oh,
which is
great.
done to determine what worked, what didn't work, what would help the towns and the
Right.
localities. So that'll be done over the winter, so exactly, we'll be better prepared next year when all this happens.
Well, and that might be, I mean,
That's
that, you know, I mean, that might be something that we discuss also, because if,
sure.
if there's something that
You reported a
we,
goals
as a
discussion.
board, like, you know, if there's something that we need to pull together and be ready for,
Yes,
you know, something, I think that would be good to talk about as
Like
well.
even save all your tweets and your Facebook stuff, cause you can use them again.
Well, I'd like to especially publicly thank Laura. I mean, we all did a part, but Laura did extra.
yes,
She
did.
just worked extra hard during this, and
Yep.
thank you so much.
She stayed
Yes.
afterwards to
Depends on the climate
finalize.
change.
Yes, thank you, both of you, but yeah, I know that it was a lot of work.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think people, we'll do that discussion
Should
another
we all say
time, too.
pneumococcal vaccines together?
Yeah,
Vaccines.
so, just so the board knows, with the efforts of Kitty Mahoney from Framingham and our nurse, Nancy Clary, we're in elderly services in town. A clinic for pneumonia, tuberculosis is being handled as a joint clinic. We're gonna be updating the flyer to say Framingham, Ashland.
Mark, did this used to, did the pneumonia one used to be given with the flu shot? Am I wrong?
If you asked for it, you were able to receive it. It wasn't the same vaccine that's now on the market. It was a
Okay.
different vaccine back then.
Okay,
I thought tuberculosis people don't entertain in public areas because of contagious problems, isn't it? Or is that not anymore? Tuberculosis.
a clinic?
With the TB clinics, there's sometimes people that aren't vaccinated. You have some.
Vaccination only, okay, but not people with TB issues.
No, they would fall in a different program, TB.
Okay.
Yep, that is correct, AJ.
So who would go for a pneumonia shot?
Well, someone that wants Pneumovax, it's the most recent vaccine that's out there.
So why don't we, like, tell people, so it's a new vaccine, if you
a
got
different
pneumonia
vaccine.
vaccine 2 years ago, should you come get this?
Check with
or-
your doctor.
Check with your doctor.
Yeah, I had pneumovax a couple of years ago, because as my doctor described it, I got pneumonia after 50. So
Okay,
if you get it after 50, they will give you the shot.
okay,
And then they
Tetanus,
They don't require it, but I think that
Oh.
they suggest if you're over 65, you should, and haven't had one,
Okay.
that you should have one.
all right, great.
And I stand corrected, KG, I'm glad you asked that question, Laura pointed out. On the agenda, it should say tetanus, not TB.
Thank you,
Good point, I stand corrected.
thank you.
So
That's
just
what
I'm
for,
looking at it,
Right.
and then you're looking at that,
Tetanus.
saying, "Ooh, geez."
Tetanus is, for an adult.
Tetanus, every
Do you
10
want-
years?
For an
do you want
adult,
to read
it
the
is, yes.
announcement,
Yeah,
just in case anybody's
it
watching
should,
that?
or
I
it
can
depends
do it.
if the
Okay,
boosters
if you
are
have
or
it.
not,
If
but
you wanna
you're
read
right,
that one or the
booster
short
at least
version, it's up to
10.
you.
I just would let them, just for, in case we have anybody in the audience, on TV watching, the clinic is going to be December 3rd at the Ashland Community Center from 10 to 12. It's for Ashland and Framingham residents.
Correct,
Pneumonia vaccines, and then tetanus vaccines will be
Yep.
given.
Yep, yes.
If you have any questions, you can contact the office.
Great.
Just, is that something that, like they do in Framingham? Is that how did we get to having this clinic? And
I'm not for
it
sure.
was just an idea of Nancy
Yeah, I
and
think-
Kitty's, okay,
yeah,
great.
yeah.
I think this is great.
It might be
It's
one of the
another one
first,
of
it
those-
might be a second one or a third,
great.
I'm not sure how Kitty does it out there.
And of course, you put
It's
it on the
nice,
website
yep,
and
wanna
then
get that on the
Facebook
web
and-
and
okay, good.
tweet it out and all
Great.
that fun stuff.
Good job, guys.
And on the next item, F, the update on the Narcan, we are part of a grant. The facilitator for the grant and I visited, we had a meeting a week ago Monday. Was it a week ago? It was, no, 2 weeks ago. It was on November 4th. And we discussed how it's going to work and how many doses we can get. The doses are meant for the general public here in Ashland. It can't be utilized for our first responders, and I've had that discussion with both chiefs, understand that. But they can get other funding for first responders, so that's good to hear. And we'll get 10 doses for our first allotment, no different from the town of Hudson, which is gonna get 10 as well, based on our previous use. And if we run out, they'll give us more. So
Okay, great.
we're just waiting now for our written orders from, well, I thank John Reed for helping us out, he's a doctor. He signed our written orders, but we have to get the certification to distribute Narcan. So that's coming in from the state, takes about 4 weeks. I'm hoping by the next meeting, I'll be able to report that the program's is active.
And does that have a shelf life? Is it,
Usually, not usually, always. The shelf life, from what I hear, is about 18 months.
oh, okay, all right, great.
So is that certification a yearly thing, Mark, that we have to
I
do?
don't know, but it's the
I don't
other.
remember hearing about that
We didn't
before.
have to do it on the last program, and all of a sudden now you have to get certified in Boston. We mailed it out, and we'll see what happens. It was new to me, to be honest with you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Was there
So
a
in the
fee?
meanwhile, we have available Narcans.
Well,
Before they-
expired. But when you talk to different people in the medical field, a month or two out of expiration date is only like a % difference. Thank you.
Yeah.
I was hoping to hear a
I would-
response from
yeah,
that side of the,
I would use it,
yes,
better than not having it at
Yeah.
all,
Right.
that's
that's
for sure.
what I've heard. Yeah, thank you.
Right.
As long as there is no adverse effect from using it.
It's covered by the Good Samaritan law, no matter what, I mean, if you use it, you can-
If it's shy of 1%, I'll use another dose. You know, Narcan can't hurt you if you overuse it.
That's great. Fine.
And the last update, I think we all been seeing in the news, all the various information on what the court decided. That's why I sent you the link. I sent you information on this item, on
Yeah.
tobacco and nicotine.
Mark, before you go
You know,
there,
I was gonna say,
you skipped G.
it's okay,
oh,
I'm just
You
gonna bring it
buried-
back.
You buried
Thank you.
one.
Yeah, I
I
know.
will let, Diane is very knowledgeable about this. We have, right now, our main burial agent is our funeral director, John Matarese, because he's right there. But Tara Ward is also another person that is a burial agent, and I've usually been appointed as well. And you were appointed too,
Yes, I was gonna say, we should do, yeah.
administrative clerk
So
can be
annually, we
appointed.
need to appoint burial agents who will issue burial permits for us. Matarese does a lot of them, because again, he's here in town and willing to do it. So it was just an oversight that we just need to do it, so
Okay.
we would need to do it tonight.
Should we put that on December 3rd's agenda?
I think we should need to do it tonight.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
it is on the agenda for it, because
Okay,
we,
appoint tonight. Okay.
I believe it's lapsed.
Wasn't there
So-
a correction of the form which we were supposed to do
So,
on the,
because they,
Yeah.
on the gender
we-
issue?
we're not.
That's a different form.
Yeah, we're not approving that form because it's a state form, so we're not making any changes to it,
Okay.
per council.
That's correct.
Yeah. So,
So do we have candidates for,
well, I was gonna say, I'll name off the names, because it's Mark Orm, Laura
We are
Clifford.
adopting the state form, is that right?
No, this is to appoint the
This
act,
I understand, but the other one, what
It's
do
all
you do?
said, it's
We
a
don't
state
have to
form, we don't
adopt the
have to do
state form.
anything.
Oh,
Our
we don't
attorney
have to, we
said
don't.
we're okay the way it is. So it's fine.
Well, then I better go to the state and talk to them.
You don't like the state form?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's KG's goal for next
I-
year.
You're gonna have.
I don't want to
only
be
one of
cremated with that
Can't
form.
wait to say KG on this, KG on that.
The State House is about 2 miles from Suffolk University.
Well.
All right, let's get back to the appointment of the burial agents.
I know who to call. I met him yesterday, so I'll call him.
So I'm gonna name off the names, and then somebody can move it, because we
Sure.
have Mark Orm, Laura Clifford, John Matarese Jr., John Matarese Senior, Tara Ward, and Cindy
Oh,
Livingstone.
yes, it's-
So moved.
Second, sorry.
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, now,
Now H, yeah, we skipped G. So I sent you the link to the various programs within the State Department of Public Health. And as you all know, the ban keeps changing depending on what the courts have said and process. But no matter what happens, our ban will take effect on flavors January 1st, no matter what happens at the state. The state is looking at June 1st for banning vape products. Stay tuned, I'm not for sure whether that's, and flavors on June 1st. We're gonna be 5 months ahead of them, and we'll explain it in case any of our vendors are confused by all this, because they're getting probably a lot of information on the state ban or potential ban, where ours takes effect on January 1st.
Yeah, that's what Jack Lewis said yesterday.
When would that potential Senate vote be? After the first of the year?
I thought it was supposed to be
Because the House.
this week,
Oh, this week?
but
Okay.
I haven't
Too busy
heard.
banning
Yeah, I haven't seen
plastic
anything
bags.
since you
No, they,
sent what you sent.
they only did the safety regulation for the cell phone. You can't carry it anymore. It has to be either the dashboard or on
Yeah.
a stand, not in your hand.
Yeah. And do you,
Fines
do
go
you
up to
think that
500.
theoretically with the two
Yeah,
agents that
500
will be able to, they
Wow.
won't just do it like,
Yes.
they'll be able to get on,
I
hit
totally-
the ground running, so to
Yeah,
speak, and
Yes.
I just wanna make sure it doesn't fall on you to go
Yeah,
around and.
Melissa's ready once she
Okay,
gets her
good.
letter.
I mean, she's
She
familiar
has to
with
get a
them.
letter.
Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
she's done plenty of them.
Their application, their renewals.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, and I just figured if they just
Oh,
kinda
yeah,
did
they need
a
a
quick,
visit.
just remind
And I
them.
can pay a visit in between if they
So,
couldn't get to somebody.
Are you,
you know.
are you sending all this updated copy to every vendor in electronic form? So they
We
know
sent the new our regulations.
that's
and-
been approved and then
Yes.
with the cover
Laura
letter.
sent them with the permit
Yeah, and
request.
same
Or
thing, it
or
wouldn't hurt
even
to send them a
you
quick
can
email,
electronically
just
can
kinda
send it.
remind them,
Remind
just,
them,
you know,
yeah.
we obviously don't wanna penalize anybody, but hopefully everybody will be good. Awesome.
And that's H, and that's it for this point.
All right, good job, Mark.
Thank you.
All right, October 15th minutes. Give everybody, I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at them, or if you want to take a peek. I did look at them.
Yep, I did too.
Still going to keep it? Okay. How come on the regulation you added it on? Did they change?
They changed it.
Good. All right.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Ask for a second. You guys still reviewing?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 I have to just abstain.
Okay.
Actually,
But I
the
would-
open
I
meeting
would-
I was just-
laws,
I would agree.
Diane and I recently attended the the meeting laws for, and you do not have to have been present to vote on the meeting minutes.
Okay, then I'm gonna approve it.
According
All
to
right.
town.
I was gonna say, and that was something
Oh,
that
that's
kind of
great.
refreshed my memory as well, because I
Okay.
have done the same, but you can vote on them even if you weren't there, so.
I thought.
No,
You
no.
don't?
As a
Okay.
matter of fact, the town never approved that, that's another, yeah.
Excellent,
So
thank
yeah,
you.
town
All right.
council taught us that.
Nice, thank you.
Okay, so our next meeting right now is actually, well, it's only a couple weeks away, it's December 3rd. And I know we spoke already, but we need to do the annual grease trap waivers at that meeting.
Ah, I will not be present.
He will not be here. Just I guess a quick overview, basically what Mark does is, or Mark and Laura presents a list of annual grease trap waivers,
Okay.
and we move the list,
Okay.
it's a formality.
Do we wanna try one meeting, maybe the 10th, or no?
Are you gone just for that night, or are you gone?
Week.
Okay.
I was suggesting that we should probably consider a small fee for it. Have them make the application and then approve it.
I'd say a big fee.
whatever, yeah, because
Do we have to go?
I
through-
was.
Again,
I'm teasing Kate.
No,
No,
but I know
no,
we had
because-
this discussion, we're not actually doing the, if DPW.
it doesn't matter, whatever it is, but, you know, the food inspector is supposed to keep an eye on it by looking at the log, whether they clean it or not. That's also a job for the food inspector, when he goes there. So they spend the time there too to look at the log. So what I suggested, for grease trap, they have to spend $10,000 or $15,000 minimum. And then they're saving that money, and then they had put that money in the bank, they probably save a few bucks a year. Charge them a fee and then let them put an application form and then get going, rather than the responsibility of Mark to look at who is to be given every year. If he misses the paper, then he'll be held responsible.
They don't do anything though, it's a list.
They don't do anything, now that's what you put the responsibility on the
They file it-
vendors, let them
They
do
file
it.
it with the DPW by January 31st of the following year.
But we need to approve those in December, we don't do,
That's-
we don't,
No, their book gets filed, their logs,
Right.
we don't look at those, what we look at basically is have they had any issues with backups into the town sewer? They're the ones that the DPW would let us know are problems and maybe we should reconsider.
Right. You know that the food inspector or the health inspector is the eyes and ears of the town for any inspection,
all right.
Any
We'll talk
violation.
about that when we talk about
any
our
violation.
fee schedule. So we could,
That's what the law says.
we could move the meeting,
He's tough.
I know,
He is tough.
I'm gonna shake him down for all the
He
money that's in
wants-
his pocket
I know
before
who
he
I'm
leaves.
gonna hire for the grease trap
Whew,
inspector.
I know, just for the record, that could be your project for next year.
That's
So
fine.
just,
I'd be on
just
your
remember,
goals.
be careful what you ask for, KG. So, if Judy's not available on the third, do we wanna still meet the third? Do we wanna look at meeting the 10th? In the past, we had a quick meeting and then went out for
Yeah.
holiday dinner, or had a holiday gathering. We can do it a night of a meeting, or we can do it another night, whatever.
10th is fine.
you-
So,
I'm up for
so
whatever
we'd
works.
meet on the 10th and not the 17th, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah, we'll meet the 10th and that's it for the month.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that.
We'll do a 6 to 7 and then plan to do 7:30 dinner,
Mhm.
same place.
Will it be able to be here, or is there gonna be a conflict? and
Tuesdays
we could
usually
note
aren't conflict.
I can check the meeting room. We can meet downstairs if
Yeah,
that's the
'cause we
case,
can-
I mean,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
fine.
flowing
Need to,
real
right?
well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
so,
can
okay,
check
we'll
the
do the
meeting room.
10th.
Instead of the third.
Correct.
And what's the meeting in January coming up? I'm not here till the 8th.
January, that's the first and third.
7th is technically the first meeting in January.
7th and 21st,
Mhm.
somebody.
Well, I hate to say it,
No.
KG, I would probably
no,
say that we
19th.
should probably meet on the 7th because that's a month.
10 to the 7, yeah.
It's
Yeah,
a long time if we don't.
yeah,
So-
that would be good.
When are you back?
He's not back until the
8th.
8th, but unless we decide we'll wait till the 17th to meet.
Why
It's kind of getting close
17th?
to the holidays, so.
14th, isn't it?
Oh, she's talking about
December, I'm sorry, if
December.
we,
Oh, December.
if,
Having a span, what the board could do is plan for a meeting if needed in between that time period. You know, there could be something that comes up, and you could schedule a meeting within 2 days of,
I'd prefer to meet the 10th of December and just wait if we can.
because the
just
holidays
because,
get
yeah.
crazy.
And then, I mean, if you don't mind, KG, we'll probably meet on the 7th, just because it's a month.
Fine.
Is that okay with everybody?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, the 7th?
January.
January?
January, yep, so we'll meet the 10th for a quick meeting, and then a holiday gathering, and then we'll meet January 7th and get on our regular schedule. Anybody else have anything that we need to discuss?
So I better get ready with the grease trap thing for the
Can I
10th.
ask for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Right. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.